It's about 20 years ago, and my husband and I are in a medical waiting room. And there are photos of sweet, fat little babies on the wall, and mounted newspaper articles of happy parents and their sweet, fat, new little babies. But it feels insensitive. We're in a fertility clinic. After many years together, my husband and I had decided, why don't we expand our love by having a baby? Surely it'll just happen, no stress. A year goes by, didn't happen. Another year goes by, still didn't happen. I spent my wayward youth trying really hard to not get pregnant. Why can't I get pregnant now? I'm reminded of my mother, who had an uncle who was an expert in racehorse breeding. And he looked at her and said, "You'll catch easy." So I just assumed I would catch easy too. But I don't know, maybe this was like a divine sign or fate. Maybe it was fate heeding our true wishes. We already have a full, robust life. But my husband and I decide we don't want to look back and regret not trying a little bit harder. So we step on the medically assisted breeding hamster wheel, and here we are in this clinic waiting room, beneath photos of babies in flower pots and babies in cabbages, kind of like so many grocery store items that you would just buy. And we're waiting to meet our rock star fertility doctor, who is head of the clinic, and he's responsible for bringing many sweet, fat little babies into the world. And he's an imperious, cold son of a bitch. You should go straight to IVF. He means in vitro fertilization, test tube babies, developed 25 years earlier. No, we want to start with intrauterine insemination, kind of an enhanced turkey baster method. But it is way less invasive, does not have the risk of multiples. We understand it might not work as well. Only a 15% chance of working? Well, we're healthy and hopeful. So, this guy just shrugged. What did he care? He just had a sense that it would mean more time and more money at his clinic, where there was a phalanx of doctors and medical staff to perform all the various procedures, and there was a cheerful accountant named Massimo. And the bastard was right. 1 year later, 3 failed attempts at the clinically applied turkey baster method, we start to consider IVF. Now, IVF has a better likelihood of working, but it's still roughly only a 1 in 3 chance. Let that sink in, 1 in 3. Consider all the women who are told, oh, just do fertility treatments, freeze your eggs for later. And while my husband and I are like pondering all of this, I run into a friend on the street one day, and with his sweet, fat, new little baby, and he looks exhausted. I don't know what I used to do with all my free time. I know what I do with my time. I have 1.5 great jobs. I take tango lessons with my husband. I go to concerts and lectures and restaurants and games nights with friends, and I visit museums and galleries, and I eat tacos on Tuesdays before cheap movies. Right. We want to have no regrets. So we roll the dice and start the process for IVF. Now, when my husband goes to the clinic, he is escorted to a nice room where there's a comfy couch, some magazines with a variety of pictures, and a big screen TV. And then he's handed a little jar. When I go to the clinic, I get lots of meds. I get meds to suppress my hormones, putting me temporarily into menopause, and then meds to amp up my hormones to overstimulate my ovaries. And then there are the needles. I get needles at the clinic, needles I give myself at home in the belly, needles that my husband has to give me in the flank. And those are so precisely timed that once we even had to sneak into a cloakroom at a wedding reception where I lifted my skirt so he could stab me in the behind, which was way less sexy than it seems. And then there are the long needles to extract my eggs and then mix them with my guys, spunky little guys. And then, a few days later, the fertilized eggs are inserted back into me with a long needle-like catheter. During all this time, I am also taking tinctures and doing acupuncture to tonify my uterus. Or as they say in Chinese medicine, clear the palace. But as I lie back on my acupuncturist's table, I just feel sorry for myself. I have tears going down my temples into my ears while I'm stuck through with loads of whisker-thin needles. Why am I still doing this? Who would still be doing this? I hear news of births with tragic outcomes, child abductions. Oh, and then there are the tabloidy headlines of celebrity pregnancies. Even Britney Spears got pregnant, not just once, but twice. And I spent a lot of time in that clinic waiting room. Once it was packed, at least a couple of dozen people. And a woman had to bring her little daughter who was toddling about in a white floaty dress trimmed with ribbon. I smile a bit. She's cute. One woman beams and leans forward. She must be a newbie, I think, because all the other women are turning their heads to look away. Right. No regrets. First IVF, rotating cast of doctors, sucking out my eggs, mixing them with sperm, wait a few days, put them back in me, wait a hopeful few weeks, no dice. We're so disappointed and somehow surprised. A few months later, second IVF, another rotating cast of doctors. Oh, but this time the rock star fertility doctor was the one who was to put the fertilized eggs into me, except he had to be paged because he'd forgotten the appointment. And he came in all distracted, practically wiping the crumbs from his breakfast off of his front. But he puts them in, and that's that. And then we wait a few more weeks, and I go to the clinic, another needle, another test. I'm biking home along the mountain, and I get a phone call. I stop. Hi, it's the nurse from the clinic. I wanted to tell you as soon as possible. Your hormone levels are high. You're pregnant. Oh my God, it worked? Yeah, and they're really high. I think it might be twins. He not only delivered, he over-delivered. I feel excitement. I feel fear. And I get to phone my husband and say the words I never thought I would. I'm pregnant. And he is so excited, and he is not at all concerned that it might be twins. But years later, I get to look over at the table at mealtime at my 18-year-old twin sons. And I am very lucky. I have a full, robust life of a different kind now, and I have no regrets. Thank you.